Jennifer Harshman has consumed more than 19,000 books. She began editing professionally in 1992, polishing more than 30 million words since. When she's not working, Jennifer can be found with her family, coping with disabilities, homeschooling, playing with paint, or tooting a flute. And I didn't know about that one, but we'll talk about that later. So, welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Aisha. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you. So I know thousands of people are always saying, I'm going to write that book or I want to write a book. And so I'm grateful that you're here today to share with us some information and tips for those that are considering but have not necessarily gotten started.
Great. So, the first thing that I want to address is some of the misconceptions that people have about writing a book, because that is what stops so many people from ever getting started. And that's the concept that it is a huge undertaking. It's really hard and so complicated that they just are not up to the task. And all of that is untrue. Now, can a book be complicated and long and take forever? Sure, it can. You hear stories about somebody who took 12 years to do their book, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it can be as straightforward and as simple as baking a cake. So I use, the whole book baker thing. I use the metaphor that writing a book can be as simple as following a recipe to bake a cake. So if you have the right ingredients, and you follow the proven path and you bring a willingness, a stick-to-itiveness to it, because, there are going to be some days you're like, I just don't feel like writing, or this part's scary, or I feel a little stuck. But if you bring the right attitude to it and you have the path to follow, you can absolutely write a book.
And I'm so excited, Jennifer, about your approach. So I've seen lots of things online and also received information from people about different approaches and ways to do it.
Mhm.
But as you can
Mhm.
see, Jennifer's come with her baker's hat and she just brings an element of joy and fun to the process that, like she said, not saying it's not going to be difficult. It just gives you a different level of excitement about even approaching it. And so I know you have some specific things that you wanted to share with us, but I just wanted to point out that when you're undertaking something like this, especially if it's something new, that it does help to have someone that's done it before and has that experience, but also has those different ways of being able to make it enjoyable.
Right. If it's not fun, it won't get done. It's just that simple. So if you make it fun, you can get it done. Like I use rhymes, I use metaphors and puns. I warned people at the very beginning of my book that is about to come out in October that this book is full of, puns, plays on words, metaphors, all of that stuff. So I take a lighthearted approach to something that can be very serious and very impactful. Your book doesn't have to be comedy. It doesn't have to have humor. But if you take that fun approach, then you'll definitely be more willing to get up early or stay up late or whenever it is that you've decided that you're going to have as your writing time. And it will be a lot easier to get through the process.
Fantastic. So I want to make sure that I point it out now, and then we're going to come back and talk about it again. You have a book coming out in October,
Mhm.
and you have a program called Your Book Bakery. So I want to
Yes,
put a
ma'am.
pin in those, make sure that we come
Okay.
back and share with people. But I would love for you to share your baker's dozens reasons to write a book.
Okay. So the first one is the biggest by far, and that is you can serve people in many ways. If you're not in it to be of service to other people, if you're only looking out for yourself or your bottom line, those types of things, I don't tend to work very well with people like that. I work with people who want to make a difference in the world. So that's the number one reason you can help people. Now, we could be on a call one-to-one. I could help one person at a time, and that's great. But what if I could help 1,000 people with the same time and effort? And that's what a book can do for you. It can help you to leverage your time and your effort to be able to help a whole lot more people than you could do just by yourself, on a daily basis. Two is research and writing process can give you great opportunities to build relationships with other people. You might be interviewing experts for your book. You might be going on podcasts to talk about the contents, just so many different things that you can develop relationships there. And it can help you with gathering your own market research. So if you want to put out a course at some point in the future, or you want to add new offerings or change direction, then doing market research can help you figure out what you want to do. You can show thought leadership and expertise. You establish yourself as an expert in your field. And one of the things I love to say is the word authority contains the word author. So you've heard the phrase, he wrote the book on that. And it's not always literal, but if you have written a book on something, it definitely is a huge credibility factor for you. Clients can be attracted to you if you do it right. You'll attract the right people, repel the wrong fit. It's a good way to raise awareness for a cause or to support or even start a movement. It lends itself well to a signature talk. So if you want to be a public speaker, having a book as your base can be very helpful. You can use it as a call to action for your podcast, your YouTube videos, TikTok videos, whatever it is that you're creating. Prospects really love getting a book as a gift. If something you've written and then you send them your book, just because, just out of the blue, that can be very helpful toward leading them down the path to becoming your client as well. You can create a legacy. And this is one I cry all the time when I work with people who are trying to create a legacy, making a huge difference in this world. I will bend over backward to help people who are doing that. I have a couple more for you. The expenses that are associated with researching, writing, travel connected to it, all of that can be tax write-offs. I am not a tax professional. This is not tax advice. You'll need to speak with your tax professional regarding what is and is not allowed as a tax write-off. But it usually can be something you can tax deduct, and that can be fun. You can, closely related to that one is you can travel in connection with your book. Now, it does have to be, reasonable, and, it has to make sense. But it has, I've known some people that it is allowed to take vacations that they never would have been able to take because they were business related and they were able to write those things off. So, and then the last one, so the first and the last are the big ones for me. 13 is the personal growth that you will experience as you go through the process of researching and writing and publishing your book. It is astounding. There's nothing like it.
That is fantastic. And there are a couple that I automatically had in my head, but you definitely brought up some that I had never thought about. And we do have a tax professional here with us.
Good.
Who is an accountant and so a certified public accountant. And so I saw her shaking her head and agreeing that yes, as long as it is done with the correct parameters, it can be a tax write-off. So that is awesome. And I know, Jennifer, you've worked with hundreds of different authors and from various walks of life.
Yes.
What are some of the things that you can help people to overcome? Knowing that it is a big undertaking with your upcoming book, that you're talking exactly what you're sharing with others, and with your program, what are some of the barriers that you've been able to help people to overcome with writing a book?
So the main one is that mindset piece, that imposter syndrome. Who am I to write a book? Who's going to listen to me? I don't know how to do this. And they let that be the barrier that stops them. And to encourage people, I say the only people who do not at some point question, am I the one to do this? Like, do I know enough? Am I good enough? The only ones who don't question that are raging narcissists. So if you're wondering that, that's a healthy thing. Just don't let it stop you.
Absolutely. And in the upcoming book, so now I would like for you to share a little bit, just so people are aware of, what will be in your book in October. What are some of the things that will be helpful to them, in addition to the list that you just shared, which you said will be in the book? What is
Yes. So it walks people from the very beginning all the way through to now I have a completed manuscript that I'm ready to take to an editor and move to the next step. So the whole first draft and development process is covered in the book. So people who read it will look at it and say, okay, I either one of two things. One, I don't know if I should write a book or not. And it will explain why they should, if they should. Not everybody should write a book. And then the next thing, the second would be, I know I should write a book, but I have no idea how to go about it, where to start, what to put in it, those types of things. And chapter 2 is like, okay, now you've decided that you do need to write a book. What types of questions do you need to be asking yourself to figure out what to put in your book and where? And it literally walks you through the entire process, what to write, how much to write each day. If you want to hit a certain publication date, how you work backward from that and map your schedule, just everything.
fantastic? And the title of the book is Your Book Bakery, Making It Easy to Write a Book. Is that?
Yes,
That's what
ma'am,
we're
it
looking
is.
for.
Mhm.
Fantastic. And that is also the name of your program, Your Book Bakery 12 Weeks to a Manuscript, right? So they go hand in
Yes.
hand for you to
Mhm.
be able to get the book, see the steps, look at what's required, and then also provide some support if you don't want to do it alone and you need community or you need some expertise to help you.
Mhm. Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, so I see we've got a couple of questions coming through. And so we're not going to hesitate. We're going to dive right in. If
Mhm.
you do have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. But we're also somewhat informal. So if you want to just unmute yourself and ask your question, Jennifer's okay with that too.
Mhm.
So whichever you feel good about. Let me just ask a question really quickly before we dive into the Q&A. How many people are either in the process of writing a book or have considered writing a book? If you can either raise your real hand or raise your digital hand in Zoom to let us know how many of you are considering, have considered writing a book or in the process. Okay, I see someone in the process. Got it.
Very cool.
All right, fantastic. So if you are comfortable unmuting yourself with the question, feel free, or I'm in the chat now so that I can ask them if you.
I'm comfortable asking my question.
All right.
Aisha knows for over 20 years, I've had this idea about writing a book.
Mhm.
But I think my hesitation has been, there's so many people out there that's writing on the same topic.
Mhm.
What is it different that I can bring to the table that will reach the people I want to reach or make them want to hear what I have to say? So therefore, I just kind of put it on the back burner. But
Mhm.
there are times that things just keep coming up to
Mhm.
say, you need to do this, you need to do this. So in terms of you saying, some people shouldn't write a book, but I just think because it keeps coming back to me that I may not be one of the ones that shouldn't, but should.
Right, right. So I always say, like, the ideas that won't let you go, the ones that keep coming back, no matter what happens in life, those are the ones that you need to do something with. You know that in your soul. You need to do that book. And the reason that you should do this is not just because it keeps bothering you, because you know you need to, but also the who am I part. Yes, other people are writing about the same types of things, but you are not yet. People have heard they've heard the terminology, they've heard the ideas, but they haven't heard it from you in the way that you can tell it. And you're going to reach people that I would not, or that somebody else would not. So that's why it's perfectly fine and even a very good thing when we have multiple books on the same types of topics.
Okay. All right. So you squashed that for me.
Good.
So my other one was,
Mhm.
my idea crosses the spectrum of generations.
Mhm.
So what I want to address would affect, I would say, not a toddler, but maybe some instances from maybe third or fourth grade to seniors.
Mhm.
So should there be a parameter for the age of the audience you're targeting?
That is a great big, it depends.
Okay.
Some things can be sent to a wide variety of age in the audience. And my book is a good example of that. Most books are written at the 6th grade reading level. Most
Okay.
magazines and newspapers are at the 6th grade reading level. So that way it's accessible to a wide variety of ages. I wrote my book at the 4th grade reading level
Oh,
to drop that even more, so that even,
okay.
Students in, upper elementary or middle school, if they want to write a book, then this book will be accessible to them. So working on the grade level, as far as the reading level, that's one way to make it accessible to a wide variety of audiences. You could also write one that's to a specific, let's say you want to address grandparents first. You write it for them at that level. And then you have another edition of your book. This one is for moms. Like you've seen different series, like
I've seen
Chicken
that.
Soup for
Chicken
the
soup.
Soul for
Yeah.
teachers, Chicken Soup for the Soul for nurses. A lot of the material is the same. It's applicable to all sorts of different audiences. But when it's addressed to specific audiences, it can reach them more effectively.
So is there a page limit? So if you do a series, let's say I'm doing grandparents, I'm doing parents, I'm doing teenagers, I'm doing elementary. So there may be 10 pages for one. So is there a page that you would target in terms of the various audience?
For children, I would go shorter.
Okay.
Especially if you're doing something that's for really young kids and you're looking at picture books. 1,200 words is usually the max for that age range, but for anyone older than that, there really isn't a limit. If you want to publish on Amazon, they do have a minimum word count of 2,500 words. That counts as a book for Amazon. And for most people, that's a healthy blog post. So you could easily write what would qualify as a book to put onto Amazon.
Thank you. You have encouraged me a lot.
Good, good.
That's
that
a
is
great
what I live for.
We've got a segue into the next question that Marshall has. And Marshall, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. But the question was, how do you choose a publisher? And so I heard you just mention Amazon as a publisher. If you could give a little insight, and then are there other ways to select a publisher?
Okay, so let me clarify a little bit. Amazon is a platform. You are the publisher. Or you could go with a traditional publishing house, or what's called a hybrid, which is sort of a mix of the two. I encourage most people to self-publish. And the reason for that is, 30 years ago, it was a totally different landscape, totally different world. But now, for most people, they're going to benefit more by self-publishing than they would trying to go the traditional route. And there's a process you can go through. I do mention that in my book. I also have some information on my website. So in the interest of time, I would say, look at these resources, walk you through all of the steps. But again, it is something that you can do. If you can manage to hop on Zoom and use email and things like that, then you can self-publish your book.
Fantastic.
You're so welcome.
And I just dropped Jennifer's website into the chat so that you have that. There is another website for the book that will be coming soon. So we'll make sure to include that when we send you all the replay. And I warned Jennifer, 20 minutes goes by so fast. Our 20 minutes are gone. We're into the Q&A section. So if you had some additional questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself to ask those questions. And I'm going to hop in with one more, just because I've had the benefit of knowing, working with, learning from Jennifer over the past couple of years. And I will encourage you, if you're thinking about it, whether it's just to schedule some one-on-one time with her or reading the book, she just gives you really tangible ways to activate, to do, because it you'll live in your head for a long time if you're thinking about it. But I
Mhm.
saw that Marla mentioned she wasn't thinking about a book, but other people are telling her that she should write a book because she has a story and she has, well, I'm making that up, Marla. I know that you have a story. So I would be one of those people saying yes, because I would read it because it would be exciting. So what do
Yeah.
you say about that, Jennifer, about people that are constantly encouraged to write a book, but aren't sure? I think that kind of like finding your voice and saying, is this something I should do? How do you respond to that?
If people are telling you that you need to do something, so there's a saying, if one person tells you that you're a horse, maybe that person's a little crazy. If two people tell you that you're a horse, maybe you should turn around and see if you have a tail. And if three people tell you that you're a horse, go get fitted for a saddle. So if these people keep telling you this, then you have something that they want you to share. So I kind of take the approach of like, who am I to keep it from them? If I do, then I'm being selfish and I'm letting my fear get in the way. Or maybe I don't feel like I'm important enough or whatever. Well, I'm not important, but the ideas can be important. And the people that I would be serving with it are important. And being able to make a difference, man, I tell you, it changes everything when you realize that you're just a conduit. You're just kind of a pipe for the ideas to flow through and for the information to flow through, and you get it to the people who need it when they need it. You get to make a difference. And man, there's nothing like it. There really isn't.
All right. So that was kind of a question from Marla, but also from me. And I will kind of ask a second question along those lines is, if you do think you should write a book or have had people tell you that, but you don't necessarily have a topic, then are there some approaches to coming up with, what am I writing about? I have a few different thoughts and ideas about it, but
Yes. Asking yourself, what do people come to me for? What are they asking me about? What problems are they, wanting me to help them solve? If I could make sure that everyone in the world got to do this one thing, what would it be? What would I say if I could only repeat one sentence over and over for the rest of my life? What would that one sentence be? So that helps you to draw out, what is your message and what types of problems do you want to help people with? And that will give you a really good start to what kind of book should you write.
fantastic. All right, so I've dominated. I've asked a bunch of questions. Anybody else have any questions? And thank you, Marla. I'm glad you heard it. Anybody
I
else
don't have a question, but my friend is she just dropped off. But yeah, I was gonna call her out because a lot of people have told her she needed to write a book.
She
But
might have felt it coming.
I know, but I like the idea of the one sentence in terms of what is it you would share with people, kind of you want them to adhere to, resonate with them, and for them to pass it on. So, wow, you've given me a lot of food for thought.
Well, good. Mine is, with the right attitude and resources, you can do amazing things. And if you will choose the first, you will find the second.
Right, having the right attitude. That goes back to that mindset that you talked about in the beginning. And so I thank you, Jennifer. I
Thank
know
you.
that this is something that many people have thought about, have considered, may have even gotten started. And so I appreciate you being able to provide that encouragement and that fun for them to be able to get it done. And so I did just share your Instagram so that people can stay tuned for the things that you have coming up. Are there any other things that we should be looking out for, or that we should be doing in order to stay connected with you?
Well, I am on Facebook. and it's just my name. And then I also have a TikTok account where you'll see me in this getup for some of the videos. And I can put that in the chat too. It's just my name with an underscore in between the first and last. So there you go.
Got
Thank
it.
you so much, guys.